Welcome to Let's Talk Rubbish. I'm Scrap Boy. We're here on the glorious Gumbunja country and we're talking all things waste and sustainability. I'd love to introduce you to our guest. This is Beth Kasimovic from Waverley Council. Beth, how are you?
I'm well, and how are you, Scrap Boy?
I'm so excited to be having a conversation with you about plastics. Thanks for taking some time out to see us. Where I'd love to start though is not plastics at all, it's you and where you grew up. What was your natural world and your experience of nature as a kid?
Yeah, well, so I'm from Canada. You might be able to tell from my accent. And I grew up in a town called Hamilton, which is a bit of an industrial town, similar to Newcastle. But we had this beautiful, what we call the Niagara Escarpment behind the town. And it's a rocky cliff that has heaps of like hiking paths through the forest. And it was someplace that we went all the time as a kid. So my whole family would do hikes together, and actually my dad particularly was really invested in the environment at that time, and we did a lot of litter cleanups together, even around Lake Ontario. So I was invested in litter prevention from an early age, and just kind of fell into that as a career.
Is that something that you knew from a childhood perspective that you wanted to make an occupation, or is it literally just something that happened?
Yeah, it's funny, during my education, there wasn't really a degree around sustainability. And so I followed the environmental science route, and actually that was a really great starting point for me to really understand the science behind what's happening in the environment and climate change, that sort of thing. And so now I'm using that knowledge in my role in local government, in sustainability and litter prevention. So it's actually been really an asset, actually.
So you've sort of paved your own way from where you were to
it's
where
happened
you are.
organically.
Isn't that nice? So if anyone's on the stream now from Canada, let us know. In fact, wherever you're streaming from, let us know where you're from. We'd love to see you and say hi to you as your messages come through. So now you're obviously no longer in Canada, you're here in Australia. Where do you live and what do you do to connect with nature, to have that same sort of experience that you would have had with your family when you were out in the wilderness?
Yeah, well, lucky for me, living in Australia, you can be outside pretty much year round, very different from Canada. Beautiful warm weather, beautiful beaches. And so when I emigrated here in 2008, my family lived by the beach at Coogee, and we just spent a lot of time in the ocean. I have a really strong connection with the ocean. I swim a lot, my whole family does, riding waves. So that's what we do on a regular basis.
You've become a beach kid.
Yeah, we love it.
Well,
Yeah.
speaking of beach kids, we have a very exciting inclusion in our Let's Talk Rubbish today. Beth, I know you've met Costa, but have you met Costa the garden gnome? He's joining us right now. Costa, how are you?
Costa.
Hello, Scrap Boy. I am in the midst of a session here at Cabargo Preschool, and I'm with all the girls, boys, and you know, I'll show you here, we have just been peeling beautiful blue popping corn, and you know what we learned today? That the corn comes, have a look at this, the corn, the boys and girls explained to me how the corn comes in its own wrapping. So they don't need to wrap it up or package it because it comes in its own wrapping. And this is the blue corn, Scrap Boy, that you can see there. Look at that. All the boys and girls have stripped the corn and put it in there. And we've got a pop, super pop corn popping patented technology. And we're going to pop that corn. But you know the thing that we learned? That the actual core, where's our little corn, our core? Where are the little... Oh, Harley, can I look at this? I want to show you something special. We worked out, Scrap Boy, that we can take the corn core and use that as a dibbler when it comes to planting the seedlings later in the day. And or the seeds, we put that into the soil, turn it around, and put the seed in or put the seedling in. So how good is that for using things? So it wasn't even a case of putting it into the recycle. We can actually reuse this for quite a while. And if we wanted, we could dip it in worm juice. Oh, yeah, we've still got that one there. we could dip this in worm juice and put it in next to the seedling, and that will become a home for the microbes, which are beneficial for the roots of the seedling and help it grow better. So yeah, we're having a great morning down here, and we're about to popcorn. So if you want to throw me backstage, and then once the come back and have
It's cruel, Costa, because we're now thinking about popcorn, and you're the only one who can enjoy some of this blue popcorn. I'd like to share a quick joke with everyone, if that's okay. Who is the grandfather of all dad jokes? Any ideas? Popcorn. I don't know if you can hear the crew laughing behind the scenes.
We're losing our
I don't get to...
after that.
Costa, fair enough. Thank you for sharing the nature's wrapper on the corn. We're going to chat wrappers and plastics right now while Costa gets to hard work with the kids making some blue popcorn. It's a nice segue, really. Your work with the Waverley Council, it centres heavily around plastics and awareness. What are you most passionate about in that space at the moment, Beth?
Yeah, Waverley's actually done quite a bit around sustainable packaging and engaging with our business sector to reduce the amount of packaging in their takeaway items. We had a program a few years ago called Unwrapping Bondi, and so many businesses, 50 businesses, made a pledge to reduce the packaging that leaves their premises. So from that perspective, the source of litter is actually going down. Brilliant. And then we talk to our community, so the consumers that are going to get a coffee or a takeaway lunch, and talk to them about other sustainable options for their purchase, so they can bring a cup or a container for their food. And a lot of businesses in our community are now really on board with that idea of using a container. And I have to say, even during COVID, we still had businesses that were offering this option, as long as it's clean. You know, you take your lid off your coffee cup, you can bring your cup in, and they'll still accept that. So it's always good to ask the questions. So we're still kind of in the sort of the downslope of the COVID, hopefully, and we just need to be conscious of those safety measures. But it is possible. There's no legislation to say that you can't use a reusable container. So this is great news for us and reducing litter in the environment. And in Bondi, because we have the beach right there, we really see the impact of litter on our beach and how that litter can end up in the ocean. So it's a real visual connection for our community, and we want to make sure that everyone reduces the amount of litter that they take anywhere near the beach, because that's sort of a direct access point to the waterways, but also important for people that live sort of upstream. So this is something to think about. If you don't live near a beach, any litter in your area can still end up on the beach through the stormwater system. So understanding those pathways are really key, so that if you see something on the ground, always good to pick it up and put it in a bin, because there's that chance during a rain event it'll be washed down the drain and end up in our ocean.
You're right, when something like plastic appears in a beautiful environment like, say, the Bondi Beach area, it's really obvious. Would you say that the majority of the plastics and single-use material that ends up on the beach is locally dropped, or is it blowing in from other places?
Yeah, that's a really great question, because what we're finding is that, especially over summer when there's so many visitors to Bondi, we get like 80,000 people come a day during the summer. And so our businesses can't really cope with the excess waste, and they present their bins for collection, and they're often popped up. Litter ends up being windblown onto the street, and this creates a real issue for us. So there is a local source of litter from that perspective. And actually during a windy day, I'm not sure if anyone's seen like a litter storm, but the plastic is just blowing around. That also is a really bad situation. And some plastics, like polystyrene, which is a plastic actually, it can break up into its finer components pretty quickly just from being turned around. So we want to ensure that our businesses have bins with lids that close, and so all that stuff's contained and doesn't end up as windblown litter. So from that really like point source, engaging with the business community is really key.
So it sounds like the conversation that the council's having with businesses is going really well. The education and the story that the retail consumers are sharing about choosing to reduce their impact by not having disposable single-use plastics is working really well. What would you say the biggest challenge is to overcome the waste in the environment problem, or the solution? What's the biggest challenge? Big question.
The biggest challenge.
Is it infrastructure? Is it education? Is it collaboration? Is it a lack of care?
Do you know, I'm not sure I can answer the biggest challenge question, but what I can say is that like a collaborative effort on all those fronts, having the right infrastructure, ensuring that businesses have responsibility over their waste. So from a compliance perspective, making sure that, you know, our rangers go in and they check businesses are doing the right thing, but also from the more proactive approach of education, we work with our businesses, we provide them with resources so they can educate their staff about waste management and litter avoidance. So having the carrot and stick approach is really key. And also working collaboratively within council on all the different departments that might have an impact here. We talk to each other, we work together, that's really important. Similarly with the community, we have a lot of community groups really invested in litter reduction, and they are a great avenue for communicating to the broader community. So we work together, we host events at the beach for visitors so that they also can be on board for their short time that they're in Bondi and do the right thing. It's the whole that actually makes the difference. It's not just one aspect.
That in a way is really powerful because it doesn't require one person to make a huge change. It's a lot of different stakeholders in that community making small changes that has a cumulative effect. Speaking of cumulative effect, I think there's some breaking news. I think cumulatively, if a whole group of little people get together with Costa and they have blue corn and some popcorn machines, I think there might be a result. We're about to find out exactly what that is.
I've never had blue popcorn. I'm so excited.
Scrap Boy's presentation, the popcorn exploded into the bowl from lovely blue corn that the girls and boys here at Cobargo Preschool peeled. They peeled, then they shucked, and now the corn is ready. So we're about to pass it around and put it into a bowl for each of the boys and girls, and you will hear the sound of munching all the way from Cobargo down here in the south right up to Coffs Harbour up in the north. So Scrap Boy, feel free. Would you like some?
I would absolutely love some of that popcorn.
Oh, look,
I can hear
so good.
Some excited children in the background. Costa, there might be people who are on this stream right now interested in, well, there's a great question from Bruce Straw. Why is the blue corn not blue popcorn? That's exactly what I was going to ask for some help with.
Oh, why is the blue corn not blue popcorn? Well, if you had a close look, it's actually, and it won't come through on the camera, the corn actually has a violet. It's sort of, there is a little bit of, would you agree that there's a little bit of a blue tinge to it, but it's kind of like a Monet wash. It's very light. It's very light. So, but I don't think the camera will share with you and all the viewers up there that it is blue. But trust me, and while I'm at it, to make this an authentic event, I better taste some. So that's for you, Scrap Boy.
Thank you, Costa. I'm tasting that via the stream right now, and it is perfect. Costa, there might be people on the stream too who've never made their own popcorn. I think a lot of people associate popcorn with something that you buy in single-use packaging from a shop or a supermarket. If you've ever grown corn before, what's the process, Costa, for taking the corn, unwrapping it and actually creating popcorn? Is there much involved?
No, not at all. There's not a lot involved at all. All you have to do is harvest your corn, allow it to dry. How long dry the corn out for, Dan? 6 weeks was all it took, and that was the corn, because this is only a small corn. Let it dry for 6 weeks. and then you just have to peel a little bit out of one corner, and then the girls and boys here, all of the girls and boys actually shucked it themselves with their thumbs and put it into the bowl, and then we put it into the popcorn popper, and look at what we got. Lots of this stuff, which is splashing around, and all the girls and boys.
That's amazing.
Starting to eat it, and I think happy customers, and they've learned something about wrapping and avoiding. We talked about the fact that corn doesn't need to be peeled and placed on a poly tray and then have cling wrap put over the top of it, because all the girls and boys said how well it comes in its own wrapper. And then we're reusing the court as our dibbler. So it's been a real waste-free day of learning here in Camargo at the preschool.
Well, Costa, thank you for streaming in to join us. It's a really exciting thing to see kids understanding from a really early age. As Beth and I were chatting, Costa, the solution for a healthier and a climate-safe planet for the future is one that we're all going to be a part of. The children, the businesses, the end retail consumers, the tourists who come into areas like Bondi, and of course it couldn't happen without the extraordinary work that local government authorities like the Waverley Council do. Beth, before we leave you, we want to thank you for all of the work that you do, keeping our beautiful coastlines in the condition and the health that they're in. Is there something that you'd like to share with everyone watching as a takeaway? What can we all do in our own parts of the world to keep plastics out of the environment?
I think Costa was bang on. Just avoid them in the first place, grow some corn, make your own popcorn. That sounds pretty great. Probably just need one corn stalk. I'm not sure about that, but avoidance is really the key, working at the top end of that waste hierarchy. Let's just buy things that don't have packaging. There's lots of shops now where you can get whole grains and everything in bulk, so you actually don't need to buy it in package. So I think we're quite lucky to be in an area that's quite progressive and have those options available.
So refuse right at the top of the waste cycle there. Well, we've got a few of the social handles popping across the screen there if you'd like more information about what the Waverley Council are up to. And of course, the website is a great resource if you do live in that LGA, where you can find more information to connect with you and your team in that area.
That's right. Give us a call anytime.
Thanks so much, Beth. It's great to have you on Let's Talk Rubbish. As we've said, it's something that we can all get involved with, keeping plastics out of the environment. We're going to leave that with all of you now. If you've got questions, get in touch, and we look forward to talking more about rubbish soon. See you later.